You're in control. And I think it's important to also get to a point where, as humans, as people, we're thinking responsible AI. I think that's a big part of it. And I'm talking about things like, I'm not sure I want to share my production configuration for my network. And this is at the very minimum, right? With a massive LLM that's open to everyone, right? So there's a responsibility for us to be aware of what does that mean and the implications.
Hello and welcome to the Cisco Learning Network podcast. In this episode of What's the Deal With, Cisco Learning Network Community Manager Matt Saunders and Lead Technical Advocate Kareem Iskander dive into one of the hottest topics in technology today, Agentic AI. You'll hear them break down what Agentic AI really is, how it's shaping enterprise networks, and what skills you need to stay ahead in this new era of automation. Along the way, they'll share real-world examples, insights from Cisco Live, and how to approach AI with responsibility and intention. Whether you're just starting to explore AI or already deep in the world of automation, this conversation will help you understand what's here today and coming next.
Hey Kareem, good to see you again.
Hey, Matt, good to be back. It's been a while, man.
Yeah, the last podcast episode was What's the Deal With the Purple Team when we had Kyle on. But we did see each other in San Diego for Cisco Live.
We did.
And to no one's surprise, Cisco Live was heavy talk about AI, but specifically lots of talk about agentic AI. And so we wanted to get together for this episode and talk very specifically about agentic AI. We'll expand a little bit, talk about a couple of AI related topics. I asked our internal AI tool, Circuit, to explain to me in simple terms what is agentic AI. So I'm going to tell you what it said and let me know your thoughts. Okay, so agentic AI is a type of artificial intelligence designed to act like an agent. That is, it can make decisions and take actions on its own to achieve specific goals. Think of it like an assistant that doesn't wait for instructions. Instead, it can sense what's happening, decide the best thing to do, and carry out actions by itself. For example, if a network problem appears, agentic AI could detect the issue, decide the best fix, and apply the solution automatically without waiting for a person to step in. What do you think about that?
I think this is the extreme use case of agentic AI where, now we're getting to full autonomy, giving the agents full autonomy to do whatever we instruct them to do, which in itself is great. And I think we could get to that point. But I think for today, there is a human in the loop. And so it's not full autonomy. It's somewhat in the middle where the human is still making the decision. I'm not so sure I'm ready to give an AI agent full control of my network and let it do whatever I instruct it to do. I can barely trust myself with production network.
That's why you have a great team around you.
That's exactly right. That said, I've been diving into AI and especially agentic AI, Matt. And one of the things that I'm seeing more and more, it's moving super fast. I think we are at a point where now it's becoming super relevant to what we do. And the future is super exciting for me because we're in a learning group. And now, with all the skills that we've been teaching our network engineers, we've been teaching our community those core skills, whether you're talking CCNA or you're talking about automation, those core skills are super important. And we've been there all the way, and they're super important in today's agentic era. But to go back to the definition, I think it's super spot on.
So we've got that baseline established, and you're absolutely right about the skill development part. I want to talk about that towards the end a little bit as well, if you're up for it. Let's talk about agentic AI in the enterprise, in enterprise networks today. What are some of the current use cases that you're seeing, and what are some of the, without being too forward-thinking and imaginative, right? But what are some of the really kind of practical, short-term, almost like immediate use case development opportunities that you envision?
Yeah, one of the things that I worked on, and this is something coming from just my network engineering background and seeing that firsthand, configuration drift is something that we have to, as network engineers, we typically have to deal with. I think there's a crazy number that the number one reason or one top 5 reason for a production network to go down is configuration drift and outages.
Just a quick note for listeners here. Configuration drift refers to when the actual configuration of a network device gradually becomes different from its intended or documented configuration. This can happen over time due to manual changes, software updates, or policy adjustments. When left unchecked, configuration drift can lead to network instability, security vulnerabilities, or even outages.
And so I foresee, and it's there today. I built a really cool demo for Cisco Live. And one of the blogs that I wrote, my recent blog around the AI break, it talks about how we can leverage the, agentic AI to essentially monitor our network, monitor our configuration, and using pre-existing tools that we have access to, things like Cisco, Splunk, or using Meraki dashboard for your configuration for network management at a controller level, or even things like Netbox as your source of truth for your network documentation. So combining those three together, before we were at the point where we are today with AI, in order for you to realize that there has been a configuration drift as human, you have to actually go look through and siphon through logs and look at what's happening in your Meraki dashboard. And your network has to go down first so you could get it, or maybe you're getting a notification and somebody went in the Meraki dashboard itself or Catalyst Center or on device. It doesn't matter how you're managing your network, but somebody went in and changed the configuration outside of your source of truth. That causes what you think your network is versus what really is, that causes that discrepancy. And so you have to go in and look at logs and look at what happened and make decisions and figure out who changed it and all of that. Now, because we have agents in place and because agents access our data via APIs, which is something that Cisco, we've been talking to our community and to everybody out there for ages about automation and how to leverage APIs and network APIs. Now you can essentially get your agent to expose those APIs to your agent. And there are a couple of tools out there. And you can essentially have the agent sit there and say, okay, I'm pulling from three different sources. I'm going to cross examine what's happening between my source of truth and what the running configuration is. And I'm going to spit out a report based on the logs that I have from Splunk that says, I've realized that this switch has changed configuration. It was changed on this day by this person because Splunk knows all that information. But I have also noticed that the correct configuration for this is from my source of truth in Netbox is supposed to be X, Y, and Z. And because I have access to the controller itself that manages my devices via Meraki dashboard APIs or Catalyst Center or, right? Now I can go in and have the agent pull in the right configuration from my Netbox and then push it down to my network and reverse what happened before outage takes hours, days, whatever. And we've alleviated the time for that engineer that has to basically play the detective role to figure out what's happening. And this is where it's really, really powerful. And this is where agentic AI comes into play. But on top of this, too, because it has access to all of this, you can also have it run reports out for you with incidents. So you can, if you're building out a report for your execs, trying to explain what happened and why there's an incident, it could do that as part of it. And all of that could be easily automated. We are at the point too, Matt, where that use case I just talked about, we can actually have that definition that you read to become real, which means if you're comfortable enough, there are tools out there where I don't even need to prompt the AI to go figure out what happened. It's just going to sit there and listen. Like it's listening to all events, every piece of data that comes in, and it just takes action on its own. Now, as part of that workflow that we talk about for building agents, you could break that workflow where you can say, if it detects something, notify me first, don't take action. So this is where you insert the human factor in. And that to me is where we come in as humans. This is where it's important, our skills. And, I know we're going to talk about this later, but this is where it's really important for us to be involved, to take the years and years of knowledge and our critical thinking, which are soft skills that we don't typically talk about. And they're really important that I'm not sure you can And I don't care what you tell me about the model can do critical thinking or can think for you. It cannot.
Right.
It's been proven.
Right.
it,
It has its limitations.
it
We'll
has
put
its
that way.
limitations.
Yeah.
It's not replaceable
Yeah.
to you. But anyway, the point is you can define your flow the way you want it, and you can have it detect whatever it needs it to detect. And it saves you a lot of time, makes you more efficient in your job, and it lets you focus on the things that you really want to do and accomplish, which is really cool.
We're always thinking config and config management and config, rollback and monitoring and et cetera. As a regular practitioner of our internal AI tools circuit for things like reporting and report writing for myself as well, that's not a use case to take lightly either. Just the ability of the tools to analyze the situation, analyze what happened, and provide you a well-structured and well-read readout that you can review, obviously, and modify as you need to, adjust, enhance, trim down, add detail, color, context, whatever it might be. But that initial kind of core report writing and the time that it takes for myself, when I was an IT management practitioner heavily, writing reports was not my skill set. So if you asked me to write a report, oh man, I needed 2 weeks. Right. But to be able to trim that down, that's a huge time saver in and of itself.
I second that too. Like just writing out a report is not something that comes in naturally. Like I could right away start a project and start coding and know exactly what I need to do and lose myself in that. But if I have to report out on something, I get this mental block. And I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Things like this is where I think the AI assistant has helped me as well.
That's a perfect summary and illustration of the power in the use case. And I love what you talked about as well about the ability to temper it. You can open the doors and make it as wide open as you might want it to be, or you can temper that a bit. We consistently talk about keeping the human in the loop. So that's a really important consideration.
You're in control, and I think it's important to also get to a point where as humans, as people, we're thinking responsible AI. I think that's a big part of it. And I'm talking about things like I'm not sure I want to share my production configuration for my network. And this is at the very minimum, right? With a massive LLM that's open to everyone, right? So there's a responsibility for us to be aware of what does that mean and the implications. Because everything that you share out there with the LLM, it's absorbing and it's learning from it, and it's eventually going to be shared on the next release with the outside of our organization. And so there is a responsibility, I think, with anything, right? That when we put the human in the loop, we also assure that we're kind of saying, yeah, I am the final decision maker, and I'm going to make sure that this is a responsible task that does not affect my organization.
Yep, I think it's balance is the key kind of way to think about that. Exactly right. How much control do we feel comfortable authorizing the agents to have versus how much, when and where is it appropriate for us to stay in the loop? And responsibility is a strong keyword there too. With great power comes great responsibility, right?
Yep. That was Batman, right?
Why do I let you on this podcast? Okay. Listeners, I need your help. Join me on the discussion thread for this episode on the Cisco Learning Network and help Kareem to understand where, with great responsibility comes great power comes from. So now that we fixed your understanding of the quote that I just referenced there,
I'm not going to live this one down, huh?
You will not. I hope at Cisco Live you get approached about this as well. Let's talk about, what are the off-the-shelf, out-of-the-box solutions that Cisco is bringing to the market, and what are engineers able to do themselves and build themselves as well?
Yeah, this is a really good question. I think it's exciting what Cisco's doing in the AI world. I think we're leading by example. And so we've heard about the partnership that Cisco has done from an infrastructure perspective with NVIDIA.
Just a quick reminder here for listeners, when Kareem mentioned Cisco's partnership with NVIDIA, he's talking about how the two companies are working together to deliver AI-ready infrastructure. That means combining Cisco's expertise in networking and data center solutions with NVIDIA's leadership in GPUs and accelerated computing. The goal is to give enterprises the high-performance infrastructure they need to run demanding AI workloads efficiently, securely, and at scale.
I think we talked about in one of the episodes about infrastructure, or AI ready infrastructure that Cisco has, and all of the great stuff that we're doing. But also now, because we're in the agentic era, Cisco is releasing, this was a huge announcement at Cisco Live, if any of our listeners were on there. Cisco is releasing AI Canvas. And the idea behind the product itself, and this is, I haven't even seen it beyond Cisco Live. I haven't seen what it is. I know there's a lot of excitement around it. And I know it comes out at least early field trial in October. But the idea behind AI Canvas is you have these pre-built agents in Canvas trained on Cisco's model, which is called Deep Network Model, which has years and years of experience of CCIE level knowledge of network and network engineering. And the idea is you have these pre-built agents that connect into different areas of the network, and you'll be able to come in and ask it and talk to it and prompt it. It'll just basically go grab the data, suggest things, configuration, troubleshooting, and it'll come back with pre-built dashboards and reports. And you don't have to build any of that. You're just a user of it. And the foundation of it is that LLM I mentioned, DNM and deep network model. And on top of it, it has all the agents, and the agents are connecting to all of the Cisco products. I'd be lying to you if I tell you exactly what I know, which products are supported out of the box, but I know Splunk is one of them, because you can generate Splunk dashboards and Splunk queries for you to query your logs and all of that, at least from what I've seen. But this is super exciting, and it's the very first step into basically bringing in agents into the network that are pre-built for you. Now, and I think we're going to talk about this a little bit more. Some folks out there have asked the questions, well, what if I want to bring in a different tool and I want to connect it into AI Canvas so it could pull data from something else or take action on a different product per se, Cisco or non-Cisco? And what I understood from our leadership and our ELT is the next iteration of AI Canvas, there's going to be a feature to support MCP, and which is huge, because once we have MCP in place, the AI has access to all these great tools that we can incorporate into AI Canvas. So it's really, really cool what's coming out from Cisco.
Before we lose anyone, define MCP for us, if you would, please.
So MCP stands for Model Context Protocol. And think of it as a client server protocol, RPC, which means you build a server. That server, you define a set of tools that are basically, those tools are a wrapper of APIs that you have access to, and those tools make the APIs available for the agent, for the LLM to access and pull data, push data, take actions and whatnot. And so, this is when we talk about contextualizing your world to the model, to the AI. This is the first step, because the models that we get today, right, don't know about your world. They don't know about the data set that you have on your side, all of the great Cisco U Spotlight statistics and data that we get from the different tools. The model, if you ask it, it won't know, right? But with bringing in things like RAG as a service or ragging in general.
RAG stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. It's a way of making AI answers smarter by having the model look up information from your own trusted data sources before generating a response. When you hear RAG as a service, think of it as a ready-to-use offering that plugs your data into the AI safely and efficiently without you needing to build that system from scratch. So when Kareem refers to RAG as a service, he's actually talking about a managed solution that layers your own data into AI outputs, so the system retrieves fresh, relevant information and feeds it into the AI automatically, saving time and reducing complexity.
And MCP, you allow the AI to essentially have access to all of that data, so it knows of your world. And from a MCP specific perspective, it's allowing your agent to have access to the APIs that are available in the different tools.
And is this where the kind of DIY, the build it yourself opportunities and models come into play as well around this concept?
Yeah, one of the few. Yeah, and this is really cool because now with MCP specifically, it's open source. So it standardizes the way that your tools, your world, the applications that you have talk to the LLM. It's a standard way of doing it. These are the set. You build a server, you have some type of client. That could be a client that you build yourself. It could be Cursor, which is the IDE for AI development. It could be just a, Claude desktop itself. Those are the clients you interact with, and it goes out and it knows that you have these tools, and it starts taking action and doing things with it. That's why MCPs is becoming really hot and becoming kind of a standard de facto protocol, to bringing in your world into giant LLMs where you don't have to train it on your data, which is really, that's what we're trying to avoid: training and inferencing the base models of the AI. That's costly. You and I can't do it. Even if we wanted to, we have to have access to massive GPUs to be able to retrain, and knowledge of data science that needs beyond from me, right? And so I think it's really cool.
Brilliant. Thank you. That's perfect. That helps me understand it very well. I was going to say this sounds like the launch of our new startup operation for developing, but you kind of burst that bubbles by saying that we don't have the skills.
I was speaking for myself. I clearly don't know superheroes and can't do data science.
Well, let's talk about skills. Let's talk about what are we doing? What are we bringing to the community for learning and skill development? What should folks be focusing on?
This is the exciting part for me. The skills that Learn with Cisco and our organization have been prepping our community for a long time don't change. And I came from DevNet. I came from a programming, coding background and automation background. Adopting AI for me, especially things like writing MCP servers and all of that good stuff, has been super simple. And the reason why, because I already have the skills. And all I had to do is just learn a new tool and sharpen it a little bit. And so the things like understanding Python, for instance, you can't get away with not knowing Python. If you want to develop for the AI, Python is your friend. All the libraries, MCP, servers, all of this, they come up with Python libraries that you can leverage on day one. And so you need to understand and learn Python. I'm going to say this: we were together about 2018, 2017 back then with DevNet, Matt, and the things that we were talking about for network engineers were what? Coding 101, deep dive into Python, understanding Git, understanding how to use APIs and leverage API to automate your network, things like Terraform, Ansible. All of these skills translate now because they are still the foundation to being able to automate with the AI. And so they don't go away. And then the other factor to this too, Matt, is when we're talking about skills specifically, and I've mentioned this before, is the core skills that we have. So you're a network engineer, you're a CCIE, you're a CCNP. Those core skills that you learned, they are so critical today more than ever. Because one thing, and this is something that I'm pretty sure you agree with me on this, one thing that the AI does really well is, one, be very pleasant to you when it answers your prompt,
Right.
to a degree like, well, what are you hiding, man? And the second thing is, it's super convincing, that it's, even when it's wrong, it's going to give you a convincing answer that you're going to think that this makes sense. Yeah, this works. And if you don't have the knowledge, you'll be able to say that. But if you have those core skills, especially when it comes to network engineering, you'll be able to see through the crap. And you'll be able to be like, yeah, this is not right. You're hallucinating. And I've seen it firsthand many times. Perfect example, I could give you this. When I was first learning MCP and I tried to put content together and try to figure out what MCP is, when it was first announced in 2024, maybe 6 months later, at the beginning of this year, around after Cisco Live Amsterdam. So sometime in March is when I started playing with this. I went to the model and I said, hey, I want to learn MCP. What is it? It gave me code and I gave it context. I said, hey, I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to learn this. I followed a good prompt. I want you to give me examples. I want you to show me code. It came back with a completely different definition of what MCP is. It sounded super convincing. I'm like, oh, okay, this makes sense. It wrote an entire piece of code for me that ran, by the way, and with no errors. But it wasn't even RPC. It wasn't client server. It was nothing. It was and brought in libraries that are not even MCP related libraries into Python. And I was like, okay, like I didn't know this, right? And I was like, okay, this makes sense. Let me write stuff around it and see if I can build it and connect it to network engineering and Cisco. And I did it. I literally did it, and I was like, "Cool, this is awesome." But obviously, I wasn't gonna just release something without somebody actually kind of reviewing it for me.
Run forward and tell the world all about the great thing you built. And then,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. That would be super embarrassing. So I think our distinguished engineer, our resident distinguished engineer at Learn with Cisco, Joe Clark, I'm like, hey, Joe, I'm skeptical about this, but like, it seems really cool. Is this MCP? And he responds, he's like, this is not MCP. The MCP is this, and that. And so, like, Joe's a CCIE, probably multiple CCIEs. And this is a true story.
Right.
And that is the perfect example of why humans and why our core knowledge are really important today more than ever.
That's perfect. When OpenAI first, released ChatGPT, I thought I could be a singer and a songwriter because I asked it to write me a song.
Thank God yeah. Thank God that did not work out.
Luckily for me, my wife was, eager to correct my thoughts there once I shared with her the new skill that I thought I had developed. But it turns out I also didn't, in fact, not have the core skills appropriate.
That, yes, save the world. That's for sure.
Thank you for sharing that story as well, Kareem. That's a really perfect illustration of the value of the core skills. When we want to leave folks here with something specific to focus themselves on for learning, specific recommendations, Networking Academy, course, Cisco U, tutorials, learning paths?
Yes. My answer is yes. All of the above, right? You and your team, Matt, do an amazing job engaging our community. So CLN is a resource that go there, look at what we have. You have an entire forum around AI with all of the links that that get you started from entry to expert, things from NetAcad with just what the heck is AI, all the way to infrastructure, AI ready infrastructure, and how you build that infra at a CCIE level, at an expert level. So I would say our first stop would be CLN, and just look at the great resources we have there. And maybe you can let our community know exactly like where in CLN to look at all of the AI content. Cisco U itself, we have a bunch of free tutorials around AI. If you just get into Cisco U, there's about 7 to 9 tutorials right now, and we're working on at least 5 more that are coming out within the next quarter, all around topics that we talked about. If you're looking to get started specifically with kind of automation with the AI, network automation with the AI, follow my series on our blog channel, AI Break. My goal there is to write up blog posts, technical posts around getting started with the AI with when it comes to Cisco. So I have about 3 right now. The very first 3 were around MCP and what it is and how to build it, and the use case that we talked about right now is there. I'm expanding on this, and I'm bringing more of like how to make things fully autonomous agents, and that would be kind of the next iteration. So I'm sharing that out there has links to all the content and has links to code in my GitHub. So that should get you started as well. So we have plenty. We're definitely, from a learning perspective, we're definitely leading the skills development around this, and I couldn't be more proud.
Yeah, and one of the things I'm really looking forward to next to do with you is our open discussion thread, Ask Me Anything thread on this very topic, AI. So Ask Me Anything AI with Kareem coming up. So we're recording this in July. We'll see what the publish date actually ends up being. But in August, we'll be hosting this open discussion thread.
Okay.
And, if you hear this after that time, that's okay. The discussion thread will still be open and it'll still be available for you to go back and review. We'll work on some nice summaries as well. Kareem, anything that I missed? Anything that I didn't ask that we should make sure that people are thinking about?
No, but what you just said sounds like a prompt that I asked my GPT.
Maybe the AI has begun training me.
Oh, maybe. Just not a singer.
Thank you, Kareem.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks for having me. This is always fun.
And that's the deal with AI and Agentic AI.
That wraps up this episode of the Cisco Learning Network podcast. A big thank you to our hosts Matt Saunders and Kareem Iskander for unpacking the opportunities and responsibilities of Agentic AI. If you'd like to continue the conversation, head over to the Cisco Learning Network. You'll find dedicated forums, tutorials, and that Ask Me Anything thread we mentioned where Kareem answered questions directly. Be sure to check out Cisco U as well for hands-on tutorials and guided learning paths that will help you build the AI and automation skills we talked about today. And be sure to subscribe to the Cisco Learning Network podcast to hear more news about Cisco's certification portfolio as well as stories of others pursuing their certifications. Thanks for listening.